All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Indian Trace, and this is going to be probably titled What Goes Into a Favorite? What Makes a Favorite? We all have them. We all have favorite styles, favorite pieces, favorite artifacts of the North American Indian. And what you happen to be looking at here are pieces from one of my display bins. Many of you who are regulars know what I mean by that. I have a box that I keep my display quality stuff in. And I wanted to show you something today when perfect natural light was here and when it was easy for me just to grab one box. And some of these have been seen before, maybe some haven't. For some of you that are tuning in, definitely some haven't, but a perspective that I hope will be different in terms of understanding what goes into a favorite. You know, what goes into a favorite for you when you find a point? Now, I was out today and I didn't find a whole lot, but I was thinking through it, and there could be a point, say it was this one, that I absolutely love. I love it. But for somebody else, it might not mean much of anything. They might throw it in a box. It just doesn't tickle their fancy, you know what I mean? So we're going to look at some of this stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what goes into a favorite. Now, I'm going to let you know ahead of time, every one of these are a favorite to me. That's why I've kept them. Many times I've shared other points or given them away or whatever, and they just something didn't click. And I was happy because they were great artifacts, happy to give them away. So we're going to check these out one by one and just go over it. And I want to share a couple perspectives with you as we do. And these are fantastic artifacts, though. Mind-blowing. And this is a favorites bin that has taken some 5 years to gain. And just looking at this point right here at the top, I must have found this about 5 years ago now. To many of you out there, that might not seem like a long time ago, but I've been collecting just about all of 5 years. And that's it. I'm still new. I mean, compared to some of you, I was talking to Christian the other day, and he said he'd been collecting for 30 years. I mean, I can't even imagine. It's mind-blowing to me that can even happen. So taking a good look at some of these, they have what goes into a favorite concerning me. Hopefully I hold this steady as we go right along. Here's a piece that I literally dug out of the frozen ground, I remember, at the Cascade. Just had what it took for me. Was a great point altogether, and it's what goes into a favorite for me. My hands are red as can be. It's warm here in North Carolina. We welcome the spring in, and but it's dry. What dry means is slow for artifacts. I've checked and found and done very well, as we've seen on some of the videos at some of my sites, but they need a good washing. They need a frog washer, if you know what I mean. Here's a great point, an early point that I found at Mecca. It's rhyolite, but in terms of traditional arrowhead style, it's what goes into a favorite for me. It's perfectly fine. I was thinking today when I was out there, as I look at these, first thought, when I was out in Utah in about 2008, we went to a museum that was featuring some of the Anasazi finds that they had found in that region, and it was just wonderful, fascinating to see. Look at this piece, Saponi piece. It's a favorite. I'll give you as many angles as I can. And the one next to it here is from Crystal Point. Actually, it's from Crystal Beach. These are all favorites for me, for sure. I mean, just look at them. Holy cow, right? So I was looking at those points in the museum, and I have come full circle now to know that I could share videos that will be very much like, being able to quietly and relaxingly go through a museum for yourself, to check them out, to visit the museum, to admire the pieces. And in a museum behind glass, you can't touch the pieces. But I looked at them and said to myself, you think in the back of your mind as we go on to the next piece here from the dunes, that you'd never even be able to have such a thing. Let alone if it was even possible, I don't think you could buy them. I didn't even know it was legal to even buy North American Indian artifacts. I'd grown up with appreciation for the North American Indian, but didn't even know that you could buy them. Look at that piece. Hopefully my focus is working. I'm trying to hold this as steady as I can. What goes into a favorite, right? That's a nice piece. Favorite for sure. And so, coming full circle, now that I know you can, and every one of these you're looking at, I found Hardcore found. I mean, here's the point from the Mecca. I could almost bring you to the exact spot 3-4 years ago that I pulled that out of the dirt. What goes into a favorite? And so now that I know you can literally go out and find them, which is a mind blower, because I have already previously, for decades, been through museums where I would admire them, anywhere from the Smithsonian to living in New Mexico and living with the Navajo Indian. Look at this beveled piece, heavily ground on the base. Don't know if that can be seen. So after that experience, and you now come full circle to realize you can pull this stuff up, you can go and save it for yourself, the reality, the perspective you have completely changes, as a lot of you guys must know. Little relief on the back. This is a beveled piece. You see the bevel right here and the bevel here from Opening Sands. Heavily ground on the base. I don't know what to think about that, except that it's a smoker. Opening Sands does share a lot of smokers. And so out there today, I'm thinking, what goes into a person that they would make such a consistent, unassumptive, durable effort to find, to seek, and to save artifacts. I mean, even you guys out there that are riddled with pain, Mike or Brian, Jonesy, many of you guys deal with chronic pain, and you do it anyway. Why? It's not for money. Look at this piece from W Properties. That's a great piece. A lot of fun in that piece. Here's a great piece from the Archaic. You do it anyway, not for money, not because you want to brag or bring them all to a show and show off and show everybody that you're the greatest at anything. And I know Richard Rockhouse he's a stellar finder. Just his pieces and the collection, the effort he's made is a good example of it. But it's not at all about self-exaltation. He's not looking to exalt himself. Look at the bevel. Look at the way they actually ground this piece from the Archaic. Many have seen it, but this is a crazy piece. This is smooth as can be right here on the back edge. And so what goes into it? There must be something greater that goes into being able to seek and save ancient Indian artifacts like this. We have our own museums now. They exceed so many displays. I've seen some of the displays here in North Carolina, whatever. The stuff I have exceeds it. It exceeds it. They're featuring a lot of stuff that's shabby, broken. It does represent the North American Indian, but nothing like you and I have. It's mind-blowing. I've been able to, and look at this piece. All-time favorite. What goes into a favorite? Well, something like this does. So, we've been able to amass, to knit together, to have the understanding not just of the artifacts, but we understand the geography. We understand the land. We understand where they were, in which I've said time and time again, the museum curators and those that set up the displays, most of them don't have a clue. A lot of those artifacts were donated by good men and women such as you and me decades ago, and they don't have a clue. But you and I have a clue. Any one of these, like this one, this is from the dunes. I could tell you, I could bring you to the exact spot on the earth that I pulled this out of. You never forget it when you find a smoker or a favorite. It doesn't matter which one we're looking at here, but look at this point. That's what goes into a favorite. Now I want to discuss that a little bit today because we make a supreme, unassumptive effort. So I'm thinking to myself, it has to be a transfer of some type that happens in our soul. It's a spiritual matter. Same as hunting. If you're a big game hunter or what have you, I think Richard's Rockhouse used to be big deer hunter. Now I know that Mike in Utah, you're definitely a big game hunter. Elk and what have you. But there is a big time process in hunting and gaining the game. No pun intended, for these are all ancient Indian hunting points that were definitely necessary. Not to admire as tools, but to gain food. But now, they're the last things that we have to speak of their race, to speak of the people that these represented. The very last. Thank God they don't biodegrade. Thank God rocks don't melt, right? Look at that one to back it up. Great little trip down the museum. Here's another one. I could bring you every one of these. This is from, I actually walked over the spots here today. This is from Mecca. Great point. Good stones, right? Great stones. And then one, 75, 100 yards off my back porch, off my back door, this one came in. It's under an athletic field now. There'll be no more hunting there, although I know the owner real well, and he's told me that I can, in a very specific way, go ahead and dig the site. It's off the side there. It's an area, but most of the whole region in the area is now under a soccer field and softball field. They put an athletic field on it, but that's an awesome point, isn't it? What goes into a favorite? It's pretty simple in my opinion. These things that you're looking at do. Look at this point, a little bit of a triangle. So we make this colossal, unassumptive effort to seek and save these artifacts that belong to a lost race of the North American Indian. They don't belong to anything that's close to historic period or the Mississippian period that you're looking at. These are archaic to early archaic North American Indian hunting points. These are old as can be, for sure. That's why I love the archaic period. It's old enough for me. It doesn't need to be paleo or anything. I mean, these are flat out awesome. This might be a woodland piece. I don't know. You guys who know real well, you go ahead and tell me. I mean, this is a nice point from Hidden Hill. As thin as can be, thin to the wind. Look at this point though. Must have found it last year, I think. Thick enough to be strong as can be. Just a great looking point. Fun point because it's really unique and broad. But you tell me, if it's archaic, it's archaic. Cool. Cool beans, no big deal. But if it ventures into woodland, that's fine too. This piece, archaic for sure, the serrated smoking piece that comes from Mecca. Of course, Mecca's put out 400 or 500 pieces that I brought home. My hands are red because it's hot here today. This is a great piece. See the relief here. Variated materials. All designed to gain one thing: survival, not showmanship. And so a lot of us who collect here, as we see this in conclusion, we don't collect all of this for showmanship. Of course, I'm showing you in this kind of display because it's an opportunity to go to the museum. I used to love it. I used to really love it when it had Indian stuff in it and I could look at it and just be fascinated and wonder to myself, my goodness. And I would be blown away if somebody right then said, you know, you could find this for yourself. I'd be like, really? Where? The opportunity never existed. It never presented itself until I myself stumbled upon my first arrowhead. You guys all have a story for yourself. So in looking at quadrants of these, we can see a fantastic array of favorites, what goes into my favorites, and some good thoughts behind it. We make these unassumptive, huge efforts to seek and to save this stuff because there's something bigger happening. Maybe it's the story we're leaving behind. Maybe it's because we know the evidence of this great race doesn't need to just be forgotten, exterminated. We can do better for it. We can tell a little bit of their story and stir people up to consider. We can share. We can put stones into other people's hands. We can make commentaries such as this that may inspire somebody who's out there who just needs something else to focus on. So from Indian Trace to all of you, I really appreciate you tuning in. There's never a dull day to admire an artifact or two, to revisit finds that have made an impression in the past. Of course, as always, if you get to go out, I hope you find out there. Thanks for being in that Indian Trace giveaway. Most of it's all been sent out already. Some great winners in that. And that's a good look at it. And that right there, that's Indian Trace. Be well, everybody.